real quick. Time for devlog number 3. Decent amount of progress has been made since the previous one, so I'm just going to jump right in. And, firstly, the most obvious thing, bosses have music now. They don't have sound effects yet, but they do have music, which is, that's neat, I guess. Another thing, something also immediately noticeable, is I changed how dashing works. You can now dash during your attack animation, which makes the dash significantly more effective. You can always move while the attack animation is playing, but you couldn't dash before. Now you can, which I think has significantly improved the feel of the dash. As it allows you to do stuff like I'm going to wait for him to do his charge again. It allows you to walk backwards while the charge is happening, while attacking him, and then dodge out of the way right before he hits you, which, you know, lets you keep aggression, therefore lets you keep damage up. This has made the game quite a bit easier, but I think it is a worthwhile change. Improving game feel is, I think, significantly more important than maintaining difficulty. As you can see, Flesh Fall also has a boss thing. And, ooh. Fleshfall is still probably the glitchiest boss in the game, but whatever. Now we move on to the big event here. Chester the third boss. He's called the third for a different reason, but he's got this attack that sends ice projectiles from all corners, and this attack where he rears back and bites towards the player, which is currently the fastest attack in the game. To avoid it effectively, you either have to be moving before it starts, or dash out of the way. It's currently probably the hardest attack in the game to dodge. Once he reaches 100 health, he will enter his ball form and remain that way for the rest of the fight. Every time he hits a wall, he will speed up. So, yeah. I had a lot of like additional ideas for Chester. He's not as mechanically rich as I originally wanted, but most of the ideas I had for him were either way too ambitious for the kind of boss he was gonna end up being, or they were like way too annoying, or a combination of the two. Like at some point I wanted icicles to crash from the ceiling, and and his ball form wouldn't take any damage, so you had to like lure him under one of the falling icicles. I decided to scrap that because number one, that would have taken a lot longer to code than the other bosses, and number two, it is the most obnoxious mechanic in the world in a game where to maintain damage you have to attack constantly. It's kind of antithetical to the core gameplay loop. So, Chester is easily the hardest boss in the game right now, though. He's not, like, difficult, but for Sawking standards, he's kind of hard. And this is where the final boss would go, the, Sawking. Now, it is currently, as I'm recording this, the 20th, and the deadline for the game jam is the 2nd of next month, which means I have a lot of time left to do polishing stuff and to, of course, implement this boss, meaning I'll probably have, like, at least 5 days left over by the time the current plan for the game is done, which means I'll definitely have time. And keep in mind, that's at least 5 days. I am being the opposite of generous with that estimate. The opposite of generous. Probably more days. But, that effectively means that 5 or 6 bosses are definitely on the table. In terms of where they'll go, I'm pretty sure I said this in devlog 1 or 2. In terms of where they'll go, they'll probably go in between Fleshfall and Chester, and in between Chester and the final boss. Here are the lore entries, which this reveals what the player character's name is, Goliotic. Then we have, of course, Pongo's lore entry, Fleshfall's lore entry, and Chester's lore entry, which that tells you why he's called Chester the Third. And this big, obvious empty spot over here is where the, titular Sawking would go. The 4th Sawking, specifically, as we know who the 5th Sawking is, and the 3rd Sawking. If I do implement two more bosses, I'm going to give more lore to Sawking 1 and 3. I am purposefully leaving Sawking 2 as ambiguous as possible, just because I think that's funny. But, that is what we have right now, which is Serviceable. Oh yeah, now if you press the escape key on the lore page, it takes you back. It did not do that in the previous thing. Then again, I didn't show the lore page in the last episode because it didn't exist. The button did, but the page itself did not. So that's what we have so far. I quite like where Sawking is right now, and I technically only have one boss left to implement. I'm thinking about having the Sawking have 3 relatively simple phases, but a combined 750 health. So 3 simple phases. You have 1 health bar throughout the fight, but at the beginning of each phase, you regain another health point. If you die in phase 3, you have to start from the beginning. That is the current plan. We'll see if I do that.